just want to explain to you how I finish the jewelry and what inspired my jewelry today. So once I sent their photos of my jewelry to my favorite cousin yesterday, she was like, "Oh my god, this is so Rococo," and I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was going for. So you know, the Victorian era, the Rococo style is typically credited as starting in France in the late 1600s to the beginning of the early 1700s, because King Louis XVI expressed desire to replace the more traditional religious design to a more colorful, light-hearted, and more, you know, stylish way of designing jewelry. And by the end of the 1730s, the style of this type of jewelry making spreads across Europe to Germany, Austria, and Italy. Of course, it wasn't a favorite of the British, because they just wanted to stick to their own like traditional jewelry. So my inspiration for this design is actually from the 18th century, 7th era, when they were, you know, like, you could only imagine, guys, that during this time wearing jewelry was traditionally seen as a representation of wealth. So you can only imagine that the craftsmen back in the days took their time to create like very artistic looking jewelry, buttons, brooches, hair ornament, sword hilts, pocket watches, you know, and a lot of other stuff using gemstones such as diamond, ruby, emerald, sapphire, or topaz, different type of topaz, and pearls, you know, to make the jewelry more colorful. And I love my antique jewelry, guys. Actually, everything antique. I am a big fan of antique, and especially jewelry, because you know that they're just gonna last for a very long time. Whereas you have modern days jewelry loses their value over time, and they just tend to deteriorate and they become more expensive. You know, they look better with age, and there's a kind of emotional value to these jewelry that makes them so unique and make them stand out. So first of all, what you really want to do is the filigree that I have used is metal. I am actually trying to design a filigree with just using clay, and I'm working on that now. I'll see what it looks like and I'll let you guys know. But this one is metal. I started designing this like months ago, and once I started, I was like, okay, you know, I'm not really feeling it, so I'm just gonna leave it. I have boxes of my design, and once I start working with them, if they're not speaking, you know, guys, I kind of like bond with my designs, and if they're not speaking to me, I'm just gonna leave them and come back to them later on and continue. So I have some boxes where I will keep my my designs if I don't feel like finishing them at that moment, and just come back to them later on when I am more inspired to do them. So I started this months ago, and I keep going back to them and checking and say, you know, what am I gonna do? So I came up with the idea to finish them. So you know that metal and clay are two different material, so you have to keep the metal filigree to the clay. And you could do two things. I actually did both. So after putting my design together and baking the earring, I turned them and used the Fimo liquid gel and put like a tiny piece of that and let it sip through so that it doesn't bulk up, because if it bulks up, then it kind of like ruin the design. So I will put them back in the oven and let them bake for like another maybe half an hour. And after that I will use the UV glue. You could also use UV resin, the hard UV resin, but the reason why I don't like to use the resin is they do bulk up unless you're very careful, and I only use resin when I really need to use them on my designs, because they tend to just run all over the place, you know, and make a lot of mess. You need to be really careful when you use them, because they will just end up making your designs look cheap. So if I am using resin, I'm very careful with them, like use a little bit at a time. So for this design I decided to use the UV glue, and it sips through the design easily, but you need to keep in mind that it does take a much longer time to cure than the resin. So you need to be very patient and just let it do a thing. So that's what I use to secure my filigree to the clay. So after you've done that, you have to do the same for your jump rings. So, and the jump rings and the crystal. So for my jump rings, I normally use the Jewellery and metal glue. This glue is actually for bonding metal to metal, but I noticed that it works very well when bonding metal on polymer clay. So I always use that one. So the other thing you can do is, before baking the jewelry, you can also use the Fimo liquid gel and put it. I actually did that for this one. So after baking, I try to pull that out, because I always do that, guys. I told you I always do crazy stuff. I try to pull that. I will try to pull that out with my pin, just to make sure that it's secure, because you really don't want to spend all that time making your jewelry and then everything falls off afterwards. So I did that for this one, and I noticed after baking it was really secure to the clay, so I didn't have to do anything with this one, which was good for me. So the next time I do my design, I think I'm gonna be using the Fimo liquid gel, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, securing it after the baking. But if they come off, then you could use your a very strong glue. If you don't have this glue, you can also just test your glue, guys. That's what I do. I've been testing my the best glue for my polymer clay, and I really like this one. So that's what you're gonna have to do, and find the strongest glue so that the jump rings don't come off the design. So I do not use the glue with my crystal, because this glue is so strong that it can turn the crystal white, or it can make them very lose the shine, and you won't be able to clean, because it's a really strong glue. So you're not gonna be able to clean it off the crystals. So after, I will first secure my jump rings to to the clay, and then I will use my UV glue or other glue, like maybe the E600, E6000 I think it's called. So just a glue that's not gonna destroy your crystal, because if you destroy the crystal then you lose the shine and everything. So that's what I would do for my crystals after securing the jump ring with the glue. So for these two designs, so for my subscribers who love something like very simple, can go for this without the crystals, without you know, pulse or anything, and it's also really beautiful. So if you're not like a blink kind of person, or if you just want something simple, or if you want to try something different like I did, then you can just go for something like this, and that's really beautiful, guys. So I used the transfer foil to the clay. If you check my tutorial, I think it was the statement jewelry where I used the lace design, I have showed how I put the transfer foil on the clay, so you can check that out if you want to see that, guys. I will have these things on my, I don't want to talk too much about my website because it's not ready yet, but once it's ready I'm gonna have all these things there. So if you want to get them, you'll be able to get all the stuff that I'm using for my design. So that's what I used for that. And because this is like a transfer foil, you really need to protect the foil from coming off. And the tricky part is I wanted antique kind of jewelry, so I did not use resin, because the moment you put resin on this one and they become really shiny. So if you want them, they will look beautiful too. If you want to really protect them, then you can go ahead and use the UV resin or any kind of resin. But what I did for these ones, and actually all the design, but mostly for these ones, because I know that if you don't protect this you know, the foil on top, then after a while it's just gonna come off. So I use the satin glaze, which gives it that look. So it's not shiny, it's just like a kind of matte look. And then after I used my Renaissance, I used the Renaissance wax to polish it. So that's how I protect this one, so that I know it's not gonna come off after a while. So I did the same for all of them. This I actually use silver clay, so, and then just use some the Robin pigment just to give it a more kind of like a sterling silver look. So I have to protect that one too. On this one. So for this one, guys, if you decide after baking, like for example, this one is just a plain looking like filigree. If I decide at some point to put some crystals or some pulse on that, I can do that too. All I need to do is put a little bit of my glue on top of that, press my crystals or my pulse on that, and leave it to dry. And once it dry, I will flip it over, pour some resin at the back, and then that will secure the jewelry. So you can also do that if you bake your piece, and then you decide, okay, now I want to put a crystal. The pointed back crystal will be a really good idea to use, because then once you put the resin, it will like grab the crystal and protect it from falling off. So you could do that too. You don't really have to, as long as you have the holes to put your crystals inside, like in this case where I have the jump rings, you can put your crystals or pearls if you decide. So I already have like 5 crystals, and let's say I decide to put maybe 3, one in the middle and 2 on the sides, then I would just leave this empty. So I could do that too. So as long as you have the place to put the crystals or the pearls, you could do that after baking too. So now for this one, I decided to add the pearls, like to give it a drop, and I used the real pearls in this tiny beautiful looking, antique kind of looking, like weird looking drop. And I used like a tear shape in there in the middle. So you could actually play with this design, guys. So I decided on the pearl and just the drops, because I wanted something to go with the design, like something classy, something not too colorful. But you could also use something colorful. Let's say if I had 2 of these, if I have made 2 of these, I would have gone for something like this. So this is a crystal, Swarovski crystal, and this is a drop. I think this is called a dagger beads from the Shares beads. And you could just alternate. Like I was actually thinking about going with the, you know, like a crystal pearl crystal thing, but then I decided on the pearls, because I thought the pearls go better with the design. So you could do that too, guys. It's just all about what you guys prefer, and you make up your mind, because you're gonna be wearing it. It's your sense of style. So once you finish with everything, you have to decide on your air findings. So all I did with these ones was art, like an ear wire. But you could also use like air stud. Say for example you want to make them, you know, let me just show you what I mean. If I can find my, so you could go ahead and choose your, like for example, you could go for something like that. So if you want like if you don't want the air wire, you could just go for the hair studs like that. These are beautiful too, guys. So you just need to play around with your design. You see how well that go together with the design. So instead of just that simple hair wire, you just change the design immediately by using that. You could also use like stones. You know, you could use like the cups and put like stones. Just a minute, let me just show you if I have something here. Or you could use these ones. You could also use that. Even with the gold ones, they go really well together because I already used the silver around it. So this is how I play with my jewelry, guys. Once it's done, I will just start fidgeting with the finishing part. For me, it's like, how do I want to finish my jewelry, what I want it to look like, and I will just decide on my air findings, like what I want to do the earring, what I want it to look like. So you just have to make, at the end of the day, you're gonna be wearing the jewelry, so you have to make it into your own style. Like I did some research on Victorian jewelry, you know, on the Rococo style jewelry, and what I did at the end of the day was come up with my own designs. And you could also take the tutorial and make what you like, guys, you know, just whatever you prefer, what you like. So we finally made it to 1,000 subscribers, guys. I haven't said anything because I'm planning something nice for my lovely subscribers. I will let you know what it is once I decide and how I'm gonna do it. So that's why I haven't said anything yet, but I really appreciate you guys, and I couldn't have done it without your help, without you guys liking the video, because the like and the sharing does help the channel a lot, because when you share the videos, then I get more subscribers, and when you like the videos, you know, it helps because YouTube also push the videos. And I hope you guys are having a lovely weekend, guys. I thank you all for your support, and I hope that you enjoy this tutorial. You know, I feel like I'm also, maybe I was in my past life, I lived in the 18th century, because I am so attracted to this kind of jewelry and everything antique. I also hope you like the poem, because while I was working on this jewelry, I got inspired to write that poem, and that's how my crazy head works. And it was inspired by thinking about the old antique and how valuable they are, and I wrote my poem, and I love it, guys. So I hope that you like it too. Have a wonderful day. Mwah. Bye, guys.